of the City Council of the City of Bandera on Thursday, September 19th, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. Is there anyone here who would like to say grace before we get started tonight? All right, in that case, I'd like to stand up and I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, item 3 is public comments for 3 minutes. Jerry Russ. Oh, there you are. You're first. You want to speak?
I didn't request.
Ma'am? Sir?
I didn't request it.
Okay, but you're on the business to be heard thing.
Oh, I thought okay.
If you have not signed the sign-in sheet, you do need to sign the sign-in sheet. Okay.
I thought
Renee.
she signed up.
Did you want to speak?
Sure. So my understanding is y'all,
Would you state your name for the record, please, and your address?
Renee Lee, I live in Medina, but I work in Bandera. So the tax that are increased on the water bill affects me mightily because I also property manage a building. And because the building owner actually pays the water bill for the tenants, it makes a big difference. We run a budget like y'all do, so when we get hit with a 30% increase, it is nowhere close to being in our budget. So I'm not entirely sure why y'all didn't do it across the board between the residents and the business owners, because I mean, that would be the fair thing to do. We don't use anywhere close to the minimums that y'all set, or, you know, we pay a minimum amount or whatever. We don't ever use the minimums. We're an office building. But yeah, we're gonna be hammered with additional money that has to be expended outside of our budget, which we've not budgeted for. 30% is big when it comes to a budget, as y'all probably know. If you had to take a line item that has to go up 30%, it just doesn't work inside a budget. So I think that y'all are misguided in hammering the businesses. It just, every time I come here, I say the same thing. It looks really unfriendly to businesses. We try really hard to do business in the city, but when we continue to get hammered with these fees and these increases and these out of nowhere, we can't budget for that. And so if y'all did the budget, the increase across the board, that would be fair and equitable, which is all I'm asking for.
Okay, Deborah Slate. Name and address, please.
Deborah Slate, P.O. Box 489, Bandera, Texas. I was given a call shortly before the meeting. My husband said, would you go to the meeting? I hear there's a 30% tax increase for water. So I'm glad you were able to say something. If that is true, I'm voicing the same concerns as the previous speaker. A little more notice would have been much appreciated. I run a business. As you know, we have a vendor RV park, commercial water rates for 56 users. It's going to severely impact our budget for next year. And I don't mind paying increases. I enjoy having city water. I enjoy the services that we pay our taxes for. We just need a little bit more notice to have such a substantial change.
Thank you, Deborah.
James McGrody, homeless, Bandera, Texas. I just wanted to say, I know at the end of the month it's our 2020 hot tax fund requirements, and I've submitted to Jill ours. I've spent quite a bit of money and hundreds of hours with a consultant this year going into it to do an evaluation of all the surrounding counties, probably 25 counties, all the way from Del Rio to Uvalde to Blanco, to be associated with how their hot tax funds have been managed. And I would like to offer at my expense our consultant to come in prior to y'all's meeting and maybe help in the definition of how to do on distribution. Because this year we have what we found out, and, you know, there's good and bad, but what we found out that there's some funds associated with the sales tax and the hot tax funds that are below normal. And that way you can get a true evaluation, and these numbers are true audited numbers that are from the state and the comptroller's office, that y'all can get a better understanding, not that y'all don't, but a better understanding in regards to, well, why is this? And why is the county outperforming the city? And why is Uvalde's, you know, weekend on such, the goat cook-off is the third largest cook-off in the state of Texas now, and not ours. You know, just different things. So by doing this and looking at it and letting Britain come in, no cost to y'all, we'd like to get on y'all's docket. We're offering it to y'all and for the future and before y'all make your decision. It's not just all about 11th Street. This is for everybody in the community and the different funds and the nonprofits that receive the money.
Thank you, James. Angie Massey?
I want to speak.
Oh, okay. Art Crawford?
Hi, Art Crawford, county resident. Also want to talk about the water increase, and I do want to start by saying that I do understand the desperate need for an increase and upgrades to our water system, and I understand why you're doing it. I just do think it's a bit excessive. To put it in perspective, that you might not look at it from this way in the past. Silver Sage, our annual water bill is right around $4,000 for the year. You have to take it for the, that's what's in our budget this year. So this will be a $1,200 increase. Our service serves seniors, $5 a day for a meal for a senior citizen. That's 240 meals. That's a day. That's one day of operations for us for a 30% increase in our water bill. I know you have to do something. I know you have to raise money. There's got to be a better way. Thanks.
Thank you. Nick?
Hi, my name is Niranjan K. Bhatta. I own Bandara Road, 700 State Highway 16 South. I'm here for almost 20 years. And last 20 years, I never had to come here to talk to anybody about everything, because I did everything, whatever you guys tell us to do. But this time, I heard just now that we're going to go higher on the water. I consume every month almost $1,000 average bill. And if it's gonna go 30%, you're talking about a lot of money. How are we gonna cope with it? My salary or my time and everything is not going up even 5% a year. And you guys going way high. Second thing, a lot of rules and regulations are coming new to us. And I don't know, when I ask how it can affect the people who are here for more than 15, 20, 10 years, we don't have no knowledge of it. So when you consider any changes to the city, how it can affect the business, do you have the study before you implement the laws and rules and regulations? That I need to know. And when I asked, I never got anything from the city. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay. Item 4 is the consent agenda. Item A is approve the minutes from the regular meeting on September 5th, 2019, and special meeting on September 12th, 2019.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Rebecca makes a motion to approve. Do we have a second? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Item 5. Jeanette? Come here. You know, y'all, I first met Jeanette about 10 years ago when she was working in Kirk County as a county clerk, and I was filing stuff over there, and she hadn't changed a bit. I've changed. Okay, in recognition of the 5 years of service to Jeanette Piper, you can't have anything. Thank you for being dedicated to the City of Bandera Municipal Court and being committed to promoting the highest standards and upholding the integrity of the courts. And happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeanette. Happy birthday to you. Thank you,
You're
Jeanette.
welcome. Thank you for being part of our
You do a
team.
wonderful job in this.
I
Wonderful
love
job.
it here, so y'all are stuck with me for a while.
Good, thank you.
Glad to hear it. Thank you again.
Okay, item 6, public hearing. The city council will hold a public hearing regarding the proposed tax rate. Anybody have any comments? If there are no comments from the public and everyone is already here, I think we'll just go ahead and move on, if council will agree. Yes.
If we can confirm that there will be a workshop later for the budget for those that have questions, because I know, Jerry, you had some questions, correct? On the budget?
I had some questions.
We have a budget workshop
Right,
later.
so there's a workshop later, so this isn't killing the whole, I just want to make sure that's clear for everyone in the audience.
No, this is just a tax rate. All right, let's move on. Item 7, discussion of possible action on the following items. Award bid for CDBG number 7218011 for the Mulberry Tank Project, and it'll be from Barrett Nizer. Our city engineer. Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is for the CDBG project to replace the 2 concrete ground storage tanks at the Mulberry site, which are, of course, have been leaking in the past. We received last Wednesday 3 bids, and we are recommending awarding, well, first I'll back up a little bit. The budget for this is $215,625 for the construction phase for the CDBG contract. When we were developing this, it's kind of in conjunction with our Water Development Board project too, because we have quite a bit. We're basically redoing everything there at the Mulberry site plant with the Water Development Board pump station and all of the yard piping and everything for that site. We kind of knew that this project was going to be hard to get underneath that $215,000 budget, so we broke up some add-alts and deductive alts in our bid because we were kind of anticipating that. So what we're going to do is recommend awarding it to RAM 2 General Contractor to put in the tanks. And we had an additive alternative for a splash pad for a drain for an overflow for that tank. However, we're not going to award. We're recommending to not award the deductive alternative, which was a demo of the concrete tanks. We would demo those later under the Water Development Board project. So it's all going to work out. We've got a master plan where this project fits into what we're doing there that we're in the middle of. So we're recommending awarding for RAM 2 for $206,917.99, which is under the budget. Yes, sir.
What was the savings by not doing the demo yet?
If we let's see, if we didn't do the demo, just the additive alternative, the low bid would have been $238,000, and then $261 for the second bidder. So we feel like that it's a cost that the city's still going to have to incur. And whether we defer it or do it now, it's kind of, I think the costs are comparable. We feel like it'll be better with the Water Development Board project because we have other demo under that site, under that project at other locations. So just from a scale of things. And then also having the contractor who's going to be doing all the work at that site, being the guy to demo it, and then recompact and regrade is probably a better scenario anyway. So this one's under budget and everything's going to work out. We've got it all master planned and ready to go for the Water Development Board part. Yes, ma'am.
When do you think you're going to begin the project?
This project here?
That one right there at Mulberry Street.
If council awards it tonight, we'll get the contract docs to them ASAP and try to get it started right away. There will be about a 4-month lead time for, once the contractor gets the contract and knows he's been awarded it, he'll do the order of the tank, so that takes probably 3 to 4 months before that comes in, and then he'll start, and it should be a pretty quick turnaround. He'll have it finished before we start the Water Development Board construction part, so. And just to give y'all an update on the Water Development Board, we had this week, we just had the environmental part of that cleared by Water Development Board. And we submitted, probably 60 days ago, or maybe even more now, our EFR, which is an engineering feasibility report for that we're required to do for Water Development Board. We turned that in this week. We just got back comments are very minimal. We'll be able to turn those around and get authorized to go to preparing the plan set for that. So everything's moving along pretty good.
Good. Okay, again, Derek, I'm sorry, it's ramp 2.
Yes.
And the amount of the contract is?
200, and in my letter, it's $206,917.99. So the motion would be to award the base bid plus the deductive alternative plus the additive alternative, okay?
Anybody writing that down?
And it's, if you look at my recommendation there, RAM 2 general contract with a total base bid plus additive alternative and deductive alternative for $206,917.99.
May I make a motion
Yes, Rebecca.
to award the CBDG grant 7218011 under the recommendation of Derek Nizer to RAM 2 for the base bid of $206,917.99 plus deductive alternative and additive alternative.
The base bid plus the deductive plus the additive for a total of
For a total of
$206,917.
That's been clarified. Council, do you understand? Can I have a second? Can I have a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed. Thank you, Council.
Thank y'all, we'll get it going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I completely skipped over this part. Let me say for the record that all council members are present, the city secretary, the city treasurer, the city administrator are present. Moving on. Item B is a resolution 2019-021 nominating a candidate for the board of directors of the Central Appraisal District of Bandera County. There are 6 seats available for the upcoming election. We received a letter from Wendy over at the CAD asking us to nominate 1, 2, 6 individuals to fill those seats. Now, to fill those seats, there are certain requirements. 2-year residency, it's all here in your packet. So basically, I think that we're not going to be able to come up with 6 names off the top of our head. But we do have a list of the 6 members of the board that Jill gave us just a while ago.
May I ask for some clarification on this process,
Yes, ma'am.
please? The city council nominates up to 6 people who will participate in an election, and someone will be elected to fill 1 seat on the board as the city representative.
No, they're all at large seats.
They're all at large?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't understand the process either until I talked to Wendy today. Every taxing entity, the ISD, the county, and the city, we're taxing entities here in Bandera County.
Well, and the River Authority and Medina
Well, the school board, yeah.
sorry, yeah, there are other school districts.
So, we'll all submit nominations, and then they're gonna be vetted, and then the election will take place when Wendy prepares the ballot, and it'll come back to us to vote.
And our submission needs to happen by October 15th.
Yes.
I do think we need to publicize, I think we need to fish for interest before making any kind of a nomination, I believe.
I agree, this came up very quickly. We don't have to nominate anybody if we don't want to.
We would want
Well,
to.
but I'm just saying, it's not a have-to kind of deal. But the requirements by the state statute are must have resided in the district for at least 2 years immediately preceding the date, and then you've got to not have any delinquent taxes, and you're not an employee of, in our case, the city, and then there's the second degree relative thing, so. We need to, it's not really an action item tonight, but we need to decide, each of you individually, see if you can come up with somebody, give them this form.
So we'll see this on the agenda.
It'll be
again.
on the next October agenda, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Is this the first year that a city council has done this, or we've done it in the past?
No, we've done it in the past,
But not currently?
not
like-
recently.
Oh, okay.
Anybody have any questions? Okay, let's move on. Okay, item C, request by James Lavorty with 11th Street Cowboy Bar for a street closure for the safety of pedestrians and motorcyclists on October 5, 2019 at 9 a.m. until 3 a.m. on October the 6th, 2019. For the 14th annual U.S. Navy SEALs celebration and conjecture with the Thunder on 11th Street bike rally. James?
I'd like to request support for the safety aspect of it. We have combined for that weekend, we have Frogs for Freedom, and then we have the bike rally from Bike Rallies in Texas out at the park at the same time. The bike rally at the park is not the large one like in the spring, but Frogs for Freedom just last year alone had 115 bikes just in theirs. So the rally should have probably another 400 or 500, so they're gonna need a place to park, somewhere to be safe, and to congregate. What I would ask is that if y'all are issuing any food vendors, that if y'all are gracious enough to let me close the street off, let me place the food vendors in a location that are not taking up all the parking space for the bikes, because the real aspect of it is the bike parking. And also, please remember, we do have the marketplace there that is a restaurant now, that, you know, we don't want to take away from his business either. So, anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, James. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to approve James's request for the closure of 11th Street as stated in the agenda.
Then, second, any further discussion? All in favor?
I
No,
have a-
wait,
Okay, that
no.
was easy.
No.
All right, let's move on.
Wait a
I have a
minute.
question.
Oh, so we're discussing that. Okay. I thought we were trying to.
Shoot.
Okay.
I just wondered if if you received any permit applications for food vendors that you're.
I do not know.
Okay.
I think we're more, I don't get them personally, so I can't answer that question right now. But I know after the last event, there was some confusion about it, so I would think that the person handling those would be more aware of that situation, so.
Can we ask for a directive at this time?
Two.
Well, to specifically locate any food vendors outside of this area that we're closing for James. I mean, if we're closing the street for James and the bikes and the business around that event, then to me, we're giving him permission to use the street the way he chooses.
Oh, I see, yeah, you mean you want to prohibit other outside vendors other than those that he's designated for the event from using the street for food, is that what you're saying?
Is that what you would like?
That's fine, you know, I could care less if we have a food vendor there.
Sure.
You know,
But
because
just
we have
not on the
Busby's
street
there,
that
we
we're-
have the marketplace there. In years past, we needed the requirement of food. Now, you know, the Forge is open past 9 o'clock, and there is additional, so we don't want to take from the local businesses around also. But the main objective here is to make sure that we have enough bike parking and its safety in regards to that. And they can walk, they'll walk to Main Street, they'll go eat, they'll go around.
Right, so
So,
if I may just finish, I guess I just want to ensure that the street is used for bike parking and not for outside vendors. And I'm not saying don't award any vendor permits or anything like that, but I'm saying we're giving James permission to use the street, and I would like it to be just reserved for that purpose.
Lynn?
do you, can I address James?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you advertise for food vendors to come to the event and
No,
sell
ma'am.
food?
No, ma'am.
So why would you have food vendors there anyway? Why would there?
Because they've
be
shown
food
up in
vendors?
years past without our knowledge.
Yep.
Oh, I think,
Let's hear from Glenn. Oh, what, Joe?
The last event that he closed the street for was Mardi Gras, and we had a food vendor come in prior to him coming to council and closing the street, and had a business owner's permission, and that's how that vendor truck ended up on 11th Street after the closure. That was the only vendor permit that was issued.
Liam?
Yeah, Rebecca, would you consider amending your motion to include 11th Street between Cypress and Cedar, because it's not stated in
It's not state, okay.
in the agenda.
Certainly. So amended.
Okay. Bryce?
Thank you.
I don't know if this is James' question or what, but have we looked at the impact that this is gonna do for the ranch house, and that there will be no parking for them, it'll all be bikes, other than parking lot off to the side, which is good.
I can answer that.
So that's what, 6 or 8 spots that are out in front of them maybe, that they'd be losing possibly, but then they've got space off the side, right?
They love bikes.
Mhm.
It's not like years past.
Okay.
You know, the amount of people that we're gonna have in town actually is a financial impact on the
Outweigh it.
business itself. You know, because you surely don't wanna allocate 6 or 4 parking spots and let a truck in
Right.
for that one specific, or owner's car like in years past to be parked out front.
Just to know if you'd worked with them or not, since we'll be
Yeah,
shutting
they're,
down.
they're all about it. Kirby and I are friends.
Cool.
Lynn?
And I just wanted to address that, Bryce. I spoke with Kirby because I saw this on the agenda, and he said him and James work together very well together. He has absolutely no objection to whatever James wants to do on the street that day. So I did speak to him.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we have an amended motion. Lynn, do you second the amended motion?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, for real that time. Okay, item 8 was a workshop to discuss the budget for fiscal year 2019 and 20. I think Jill has some payroll issues she wants to present to council,
Well,
which are in your packet, by the way.
so there's a packet, part of it is stuff I put in and part is stuff that Suzanne put in. So this first page that says mayor and council pay budget, this goes back with the ordinance that you guys adopted on September 5th, ordinance 363, where we discussed council pay. So the first thing on the top of the budget is what is currently happening now. So from what the attorney's office explained to me is you adopt the rates before next year for what the council will be paid, and then that is the rates, not that you guys will get paid on this current council, but the next council. So I put just a scenario here. I put in 24 regular meetings, 4 special meetings, 8 public hearings, 4 workshops, just as a scenario. At what you're getting now, if you're getting paid, is $10 a meeting, and the mayor gets $60 a month. So that would be an annual total of $460.
No,
Wrong.
1120.
Right, 1120. So if you take the spreadsheet across, and then I did a scenario of $15 a meeting, $20 a meeting. So you can see this side's for the mayor, this side is for council. Right now in the current budget, on page 5 of your budget, you have budgeted $4,320. Of that for this year, you've only spent $1,670. So, because several people aren't taking the $10, majority are. So this just gives you an idea, a couple of scenarios, if you wanna go up, stay the same, do whatever, but this will be adopted before January, and it'll affect the 2020-2021 city council. Okay? So that's that. Any questions on that? Okay. The next thing in your packet, like most things, when the certification pay was brought to council 2 years ago by the previous city administrator, it was not done properly. It was basically discussion, talked about, a motion was made, seconded, and it was passed. That's not the way it should have been done. It should have been done by resolution or adopted during the budget time. So what I did is I went back, and now on your spreadsheet that you got, this spreadsheet, there's a line item that says certification pay on the bottom. So this should be included annually in the budget process, not just something that was approved 2 years ago. So it's important that we get this done right, and then it'll come before every council going forward at budget time. So I have everything listed out here. I went ahead and put out next to them, just for information purposes, how many of each type license we have in the city, in case you might want to know that. Anything that's in italics is new certifications we didn't have before. What we did is we did a survey out on all the certifications, not just the new ones. The public works, police, court, secretary, everything. And we did a survey, and we got about 16 back from general law type A cities in under 2,500 population, and we did kind of a summary of that. And they're all kind of in line with what other cities pay. So anything in italics is new, but they did reflect on your spreadsheet. So you'll see wastewater collection 1, that's a new thing that we have this year on our certification. That is a license that Laura, our new front desk person, has, and she's going to be working towards her 3. She has a 2. She came from Saul's with that. And then there's a few certifications in the Marshal's Department that they have not been compensated for, that they do recertify for every year. And some of them are even recertifying out of their own pocket. Other cities are recognizing these officers for these great things that they're doing and certifying themselves. Municipal court, there's clerk 1, 2, and 3. Right now, we don't have anybody that's certified except one person, just got level 1, and has been working very closely with Jeanette. And then, of course, there's the Texas Municipal Clerks Association, which I'm sure y'all all saw that I've completed this year. So that's that. So that's what this is, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
The next page is, this has come to council several times. Now, this is something that is, you know, up to y'all, something that, these are 2 things that as HR, I got together because longevity pay has come to council before, I think twice since I've been here. Y'all wanted more information about it. Here it is. This is what it is. I talked to the county. The county does pay longevity pay, Bandera County, and this is what they pay. The same, so these rates on here are the same. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't start from the beginning, so if you've had somebody that's here for 8 years, it doesn't go backwards. It starts when you pass it. So everybody's starting at the same time. So the cost to the city would be $35.40 this year, based on the number of employees we had when I did this calculation. I think we've lost 1 employee since then. So, and the other thing was the health reimbursement account. You can read up on that. Basically, this is something the city can do for the employees. It's tax deductible for the city, and it is in hopes to lower rates in the future, that your lower wage employees will go to the doctor more and that kind of thing. It's $25 per employee, but if the employee leaves, the city gets it back. It doesn't leave with the employee. It's basically money that's stored on a debit card for the employee for medical expenses, deductibles, things like that. So these are both things the city does not have. They're not reflected in the budget, and the total cost to the city is highlighted in yellow. So if you decide you want to do anything with it, approve something, not approve it, whatever, these are the numbers. The next thing in the packet is a letter to council from Martin, Public Works Director. And you can just read that. I guess he heard some rumor about the meeting and the discussion about pay raises and stuff, so he brought this today. And then the last 2 things Suzanne's gonna go over with you. This came to question last night, as y'all know, in the meeting, so that's what these things are. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, council. What else we have in front of us tonight is that breakdown of accounts by our different tiers. And I was really surprised to see that the residential inside the city was 119 connections that were under 1,500 gallons. And there were also 94 connections that were under,
Commercial.
commercial, what did I say? There were 94 commercial inside the city
Under 15.
that were under 1,500 for, and we're not gonna count the ETJ, so those two don't really matter. So if council
big
wants to
number.
create that tier at a reduced rate, it would be your decision, but there are the numbers for you.
That's great. Well, would it be appropriate at this time to discuss a smaller increase on the commercial side? Is that something?
Yes,
that-
nothing has been set, we're
Right.
talking about budget, I'd like to get these set because we're in a crunch, we need to get this figured out. So let's talk about water rate.
And that 30% is $6.89 on a commercial account,
Well, on the base rate.
on the base rate. Right. Well, we're not increasing the rates on the volumetrics, so that is the
Yeah,
increase.
we always have.
No,
You don't
I'm
want to
sorry.
raise those rates?
I'm sorry. Let's be clear, we're disagreeing about the right thing.
Okay, so if they use from 5,000 to 15,000 gallons, it's not gonna cost them $6.21 per gallon over the 2,000 gallons?
Wait a second. When I say,
It would be a lot, I know.
the only increase is at the base rate from between 1,501 and 2,000 gallons. Your usage over, these are not increasing, these amounts are not increasing.
They're not. Well, they have before, they have in the past,
But
that's why
they're
I
not
asked.
now, that's what I said. So the increase is, that 30% is $6,
Is the base rate.
yes.
And that was
$6.
0% on wastewater,
Zero increase on the wastewater, right.
so it wasn't the intent to average those out because
So,
wastewater was higher.
Right, the wastewater is already considerably
considerably
higher
higher.
on the commercial wastewater side, so there was no increase there.
Can you clarify that?
You have someone in the, I guess,
I'm listening.
Oh, didn't know if you heard her.
Can you clarify that so that you're saying just the base rate is proposed to go up 30%?
That's not the way I understood it to be, because that's not how we figured into this budget, but if that's the way.
I'm confused about why you're confused.
Because in our conversation, we were going 30%. That
On-
means everything, on the base rate, the usage rate, all of that, going up 30%. As
Only,
we've always done in the past.
well, I don't know what the discussion was last night, if there was discussion
There
about
was.
this. So when we had our workshop last week, two things happening. So we're creating a new tier for lower usage, which I know you said doesn't apply to you, but it does apply to a lot of people. So there's a new tier of 0 to 1,500 gallons usage that will remain at the same base rate that it is today. That will not increase. The next tier, which is 1,501 to 2,000 gallons, one of the ideas discussed, one of the proposals is that the city residential accounts are increased by 10%, and in that tier only. So in that tier only, that means if you use between your base rate, which is usage between 1,501 and 2,000 gallons, for a resident would increase by $2.07. On the wastewater side, a resident would increase by $1.72. On the commercial side, the water use would increase by $6.89. When you get into the usage above 2,000 gallons, and those have different rates, those rates are not being affected. Those rates are not increasing. So the $4.47, if you use per 1,000 gallons, between 2,001 gallon and 5,000 gallons, that is not increasing. Is that clear? No?
That's mud. It is now.
It's
That's
not
not
clear
what
to
I
me, because
understood.
that's, is that the way
Can
y'all
I speak up,
understood it?
please?
We
That's
have
the way I
never
understood
discussed
it.
increasing these.
This is a workshop.
Suzanne, no.
Well, you said 30%
Suzanne?
across the board.
No, I didn't
For
say
sewer.
30%
What is that, 30% on
across the board.
sewer? I understood it to be all the sewer rates went up 30%, and all the water rates went up 10%.
I mean, I
And all
don't,
the rest.
when I sent this worksheet out, it's highlighted the proposed increase right here. So there are 3 proposed increases. Residential water, residential wastewater, each by 10%. Commercial water, 30%. And I'm happy to discuss lowering that as well. It was just an idea to
Well,
start
I
with.
don't think anybody's gonna have a fit if it's $6.89.
And I mean, I don't know how much more in-depth I could have made, how much more clear I could have made that at our last
Okay, may I say
public hearing.
something?
Were you here for that?
Yeah, and I was gonna say that was definitely my understanding.
Yeah.
It was discussed that it would be 30% on the volume also.
On the volume also.
No doubt in my mind. We should go back and listen to the recordings.
That'd be fine, but I have, since I sat in on this meeting, my impression was that we are not increasing on the volume at all, only on the base rate.
In that case.
And that was what I have been discussing from the beginning.
That's not what I've been discussing. Council, may I ask you, Lynn, did you understand it to be if
You
the
weren't
entire
here.
bill goes up 30% or just the base rate goes up 30% on commercial?
I thought it was just the base rate that was gonna go up.
Okay.
That was what I thought, was just gonna be, that these numbers would stay the same if they used over. That the base rate would go up is what I understood.
Glenn, that's what you understood? Okay, well then we can go with that. It's gonna change the whole face of the utility side of this.
Well, I mean, Suzanne, when we talked about it last week, I mean, I explicitly said, you know, here's the residential increase per month.
Yes, but you were one person, Rebecca, and we cannot make absolute decisions.
I
And
wasn't making
so
a
my-
decision,
I
I'm
know,
just
what I'm
saying
saying
what
was,
the proposal was.
that's your proposal, but that's not how I understood it. And then maybe it's because I already had it in my head that everything was going up 30%.
Do you recall that in
Right.
this workshop that we have these folks on the phone, they said you cannot increase your volume rates?
Yes, we can. We cannot increase any rates in the ETJ, is what he said. We can only increase rates
I
within the
do
city
know
limits.
that, but, okay. Base rates.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I was thinking that just the base rate was gonna go up and the number of gallons was gonna remain the same because we were going to be
Volume
imposing, the volume rate was gonna stay the same, because we're imposing those franchise fees.
Well, that's all.
Or that we spoke about, that has not been approved of or
We got
anything like that.
lots of
but-
old pipes.
Wait, just,
Lots
let's
of old
just,
stuff that needs to be fixed. and-
let's stop right now, please. Okay, so we're going with a a 30% increase just on the base rate. Got it. Now we have to talk about the added fees, because it appears that we're not gonna be able to do that, because we're a type A general law city.
Well, didn't these people know what type of city we were?
Apparently they didn't, and we had that
We
discussion.
have spent a lot of time.
Go ahead.
The problem is, we don't have enough people in the county, which we learned this yesterday afternoon. Another city which Lynn knows, Ingram, for example, they have a fee that they charge on their bills. That was our intention when we started this, was the same thing. We spoke with our financial consultant, we spoke with our auditor. They said, get after it, go for it, everything's great. We found out yesterday, because of the number of people in the county, we cannot do it that way. So you have to look at, you can still take money from your rates and put them wherever you would like for them to go and however you would like for them to do.
Okay.
But you cannot set aside $1, $2, $5, whatever number for a specific fee.
Okay.
Does that make?
May I expand on that just a
Sure.
minute? However, we do have prepared an amendment to our ordinance for utilities. We can do the franchise fee from utility to streets. We
Right.
can do that one without any problem. The hard thing to do, if we already had a wastewater plant in progress, we could do this, most likely. But we don't have anything in progress. So, when we get to the utility end of the budget, there's gonna be some money left over, and if council wants to earmark this by ordinance in a separate account, we can certainly do that, but we cannot keep any future.
A wastewater capital improvement.
Yeah. But we can't keep any future councils from undoing it.
Sure.
Only the franchise fee for the streets we can keep them from undoing. Yes, Lynn?
Jay, was the Bandera County smaller than what was?
Yes. 25,000 was the number that we were given, and we're just under that a couple thousand.
So, let's discuss what y'all want to do. Okay, on this 0 to 1,500 level, what do you want to use for a base? The 20?
The current.
23?
Yeah. So it's 2067 for city residents, 1723 wastewater. Commercial 2297. Water and wastewater commercial would be 3445, which is the current rates at zero increase.
Yes, Jade?
I apologize if you've discussed this at another meeting, but if you need money, why are you coming up with a lower tier of usage that's gonna bring in less money?
Well,
If people are already paying at the tier they're at, why would you create a lower one?
Go ahead, Rebecca.
so when I proposed this tier, the intention is to freeze the amount that some people are paying, and we looked at ways we could help our senior citizens, some of our low usage consumers, and we can't do anything that's discriminatory, so we can't have a senior citizen rate, or, something like that. So this was an idea, and it's still in the idea phases of a way to freeze someone's bills. Now, we thought we would be adding these $5 a month franchise fees, though, that would help build the capital improvement and the franchise fee, which is what we really are needing money for, the cost of maintaining the water system and the cost that we will be accruing for a new wastewater treatment plant.
Are there any figures as to how much less going to that lower tier? How much you're gonna lose?
We're not gonna lose any money because they're gonna they're already paying that rate. We're not dropping the rate down.
Okay.
Freeze and increase is what I heard?
Yeah, there's no increase at that base rate. It's what it already is.
There's no reduction.
Right. No reduction, no
10%
increase.
I thought, I heard yesterday when I'd asked about the 0 to 1,500 gallons, that there was, I must have heard incorrect, like 21 people,
I think
21 meters? Doesn't it show a lot more than
119
that?
residents use less than 1,500 gallons a month.
What was the 21 you were referring to?
Less than 1,000.
Oh.
Is that what it was?
No, it was 0 to 1,500.
No. My
You-
original email to Laura was to give me the number of people under 1,000, because our initial conversation
Right,
involved
that was the tier.
1 to 1,000.
Okay. But there's actually 278 total meters.
Total accounts.
Well, that's counting those out.
Is that correct?
That's counting the ETJ
That's
as
out in
well.
the ETJ as well. We're only gonna be charging
Okay.
those inside the city.
Yeah, this is only for inside the city limits.
And
That's
then
correct.
I know there was a discussion of, based upon the reasoning for doing this. I'm getting two stories. One, I was told it was for conservation.
Well, that is,
It's part of it too.
yeah,
But,
it's not two different stories, it's just another
Okay.
aspect.
Jerry, the conservation thing evolved when we began to think, well, there's only 21 under 1,000, but maybe we could encourage more people to get under that number, and that's when it evolved into the conservation end of it. It's still one story, it's just a different a different aspect of it, chapter 2.
But
Okay.
when we started thinking of how can we freeze some people's rates, it was inspired by the idea to, remember when you said something about the senior citizens?
But then I was corrected on that, that's not what it was for, it was for conservation.
It's not one or the
Isn't
other,
that
I
what
don't
we
know
discussed?
what's.
We discussed it
Okay.
both, so,
All right.
but yes, I had heard the 15, I had heard only the 21 for 1,500 gallons. That
Yeah.
was not clear.
No, ma'am.
Well, but I mean,
That original
that's,
looks
That's what I
I
heard,
don't
too.
have a challenge hearing that
Yeah.
part. Okay.
Yes, Tony?
I appreciate both reasons behind the lower tier. I think we should encourage conservation of water and use of our system. I was curious to know, this came up a couple of years ago, do we know how many people in the city are still on well and not using our system, and what's the likelihood of them being a part and paying a part of it like the rest of us are when they're clearly using the same water source but using their own well? Because I watch people water their lawn ridiculously in the drought, and it annoys me. And yes, I am related to at least one of them.
Jay?
Not you, not the one sitting on the council.
I'm not related to them.
The best number we have right now, there is about 8 people that actually are still using the well.
Okay, I was just curious. And so, and that's gonna happen until when?
We're actually working on a program to where we can go out and identify them and speak with them. Because there's certain criteria you have to meet if you use a well and still be connected to municipal water also.
Right, I was wondering if there was any kind of inspections or any, what the process was, and how long, are they just indefinitely until they?
Yeah, the way things are written, they can use their well because it was before the new guidelines, they had their well.
Right.
So we can't go in and say you have to stop using it. Now, we can regulate certain things and how they use mixing water, for example. They cannot do that inside the home.
Okay.
But we are working on actually getting some parts together that we can go to the homeowner and the well owner and say, hey, if you're gonna keep your well in operation, you must valve it and cannot go into your home or vice versa.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ben?
Jay, do we have anybody that's on a well and not on city water?
I don't actually know the answer to that. We don't think there is, but there could be.
Okay, well, I can understand the reason for, not having cross connection and stuff.
Mhm.
So, now that we are not going to have the funds for the franchise fee or the wastewater capital improvement,
We are going to have the franchise fee if council approves it.
but it's not going on the consumer's utility bill.
It can.
You just said it was illegal.
We can do, no, you're not listening. I just said we could do the franchise fee
For the street.
for the streets.
Oh, I'm sorry, and I thought what you meant by that was we can take it from utility and put it in general internally. I did not
Oh, we can do that
understand.
too, but we're actually gonna put it on the bill, a
Okay.
$2 fee
Oh,
on the
okay.
bill.
Okay.
Sorry.
So, yeah, we're gonna, if that's what council wants to agree to, we can still do the fee, but we cannot do the $3 wastewater.
So to make up that $3, how much would we have to raise the overall rates?
To $3 per account.
So if you went up to 15% on the residential side in the 1,500 to 2,000 gallon base rate tier, that would be an increase of $3.10 on the water and $2.58 on the wastewater for residents.
And we could earmark that for capital improvements, knowing that we can't.
What we do is
lock it in there.
we do a resolution and we say, okay, we're gonna move X number of dollars, or projected X number of dollars from, as a franchise fee, it's already in the budget, from utility to streets, or
So-
street maintenance and repairs.
Um,
We can also do it from the wastewater if we want to, but only as a franchise fee, not as a cash capital account.
And I just wanted to address, because, like, Nick, when you said your bill is about $1,000 a month, so we're not talking about a 30% increase to that. We're talking about 30% increase on your base rate is $6.89 a month.
That's fine.
generally everybody says kid can afford business.
Yeah.
And, last 20 years, if you see my bill is every 1,000. And I never unpaid my bills.
I know.
It's really, very scary.
So, yeah, so
Okay.
it's not a 30% increase on your total bill for the year. Does that make sense?
I don't see smiles.
I know, I'm looking at you, Renee,
I'm
'cause-
smiling.
Look at you smiling.
I find it all very inequitable. So I can't imagine why you would, single out users of 1,500 to 2,000 gallons and not also have that same increase on the people above and below that. I don't understand
So,
why
change.
you
Yeah.
are. See, I mean, I'm about, the equality of it all. If you live in this city, you have a water bill, the water bill is X. If the rate goes up, the rate goes up across the board. It should be that way. Whether you're commercial or residential, it should be equal. If anything, high users like Nick should be the ones who are getting discounts on large usage as opposed to, if you're gonna give any sort of favoritism, I would think that would be where you would put it, as opposed to favoring people that are using between 1,501 and 2,000 gallons. I'm just confused by that.
See, and I love her and I disagree with her.
I do as well, and we have had, and I'm happy to have more discussion about it, but again, the notion was inspired by finding a way to help our senior citizens who have very low usage, period. So the lower tier, that was what initially inspired it. And then and you said this could encourage people to conserve water as well, which we think is another benefit to this program. The base rate increase does not affect the usage rates. Those are the same, right? So it's a per 1,000 gallons, between 2,000 and 5,000 gallons is $4.47 per 1,000 gallons.
And
That's
also-
staying the same.
And
That's-
also, they would not be increased in their wastewater.
Right. We did not propose any increase in the commercial wastewater side. So, we're trying to distribute.
I thought those were tied together,
They're-
so for the amount of water that you use, it has to go into wastewater, so why?
But the rates right now are different, so we're trying to even them.
Okay, so they were already in
Yes,
equitable, so,
that's-
I gotcha.
that's what this was about.
Your base sewer rate was $34.45 or something like that, and the water rate was 22 previously the commercial rates were. So it was really way out of whack.
So no one thought to just reduce the wastewater?
No, we can't reduce anything.
Of course not.
We have crumbling
Never how it
infrastructure.
revenue.
Well, it's not even revenue, it's the cost of
Yeah, I was
maintenance and
gonna say, Renee
operation
had
and
me
new
until she
equipment.
said the people using more amount of water should have a discount. I disagree. Number one, they're commercial, typically, and they can kind of offset the cost a little bit by the rates that they charge their customers, which you can't do that in residential. You don't have a way to compensate your increase in water. The other thing is that if you increase your water use, typically that would mean you're also increasing your wastewater use. And so it should be tied hand in hand, because the high water usage is not just impacting the water system, it's impacting the wastewater as well. So that would be another reason to support not discounting them. And then the other thing is like, I think that there actually should be, some sort of, I don't know, almost a penalty to some degree. I mean, maybe not on the commercial side, but on the residential side. I know that gets into a little bit of crazy, but what about the people that have pools? What about the people that have, gardens and, they choose to have these things where other people choose not to. And that impacts our overall system that we all share, as well as the water source. And so I think the higher users of the water are definitely the ones that are impacting the system the most, and not the ones that aren't. And so, not that we shouldn't pay our fair share all across the board, but I think it should be definitely based on usage, like most co-op the things that are socialized that are worked is because you can gauge what people use and you can make it fairly across the board. So if you use more, you should pay more, and that's when it works, so.
And you do by
Yeah.
the volume.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that, but, hey,
One at a time, please.
I agree with that, but I'm just saying that that's the reason why you shouldn't discount at the bigger rate, at the higher usage, and.
To be
mentioned that
clear,
you should.
I wasn't proposing a discount. It's
Yeah.
only that if there were going to be I'm all about the inequity of the whole deal. But if there were going to be inequity, I would propose it on the higher end, not the lower end. Just me. I think it should be equitable personally.
Nick, did you support?
Yes, we use more, it depends upon the occupancy, and once we have more occupancy, we're definitely gonna use more water.
Right.
And those are the people who gives more revenue, tax dollars. Why are you gonna penalize the people who are using more? That's business. Residents doesn't bring any money, tax dollars. Their business people are bringing in, the people who visit, they need water to drink, water to take a shower and everything. We cannot control. You might come and, use 100 gallon, other lady might use only 50 gallons. We cannot control that in the room. But they definitely bring more money to our city as a tax. Why we gonna penalize? We use,
I agree.
And we already are being per se penalized because based on the tiers, the usage, it goes up tremendously.
Okay, up here to the front, please, speak to the front. Before we go on with this, council, we can come back and address this after the budget. We just need a consensus of where we need to go, and so we can move on, so we can look at the rest of this stuff. We're running, toward the end of our budget season, so if we could get a consensus from council, and I appreciate all your input, folks, but we need to get moving on. So if y'all have any final words to say that are any different than what we've already heard, I'd be more than happy to hear them. Okay, so we have 30% on, are we gonna go back down to 15 on commercial?
I don't know what we're doing, and, we're getting rid of this capital improvement $3 fee, and do we need to go up on residential, and, do we need to come down on the commercial increase? I'm
I'm
open.
thinking, since we don't have the money that we were gonna be able to set aside, that we do 30% across the board. Residential and commercial, make it equal.
And a
across the
$2
board.
franchise fee? Yes, Bryce?
What is the difference now, because of that misunderstanding, how much of a deficit is there now between what you thought and what Rebecca's proposing?
Well, that's what I was looking at. They didn't really re-estimated the actuals over here. I had it on one, but they went away. So it's about a $20,000 difference on residential water inside. And on commercial, it's about a $70,000 difference. And then wastewater, residential inside is about 20,000. And commercial wastewater inside, it's about another 20,000.
What page of the budget is that, Suzanne?
Well, I'm just guessing at those numbers, guys, based on what we have for the year to date and what we have proposed.
So $120,000 difference in the understanding of this. And with what you thought was $120,000 in there, how bad does that throw off the budget?
Not at all.
Okay.
We're still in black. But it will reduce the amount of money that we can put into a cash capital fund for the future wastewater plant.
Can I make a suggestion then, if we lose the $3 fee and we raise rates 15% residential instead of 10%, that makes up the $3. For the commercial, we were talking about 30% water, 0 wastewater, for a net average of about 15%. So let's just go with 15% across the board on everything. Base rate.
15% across the board, that's equitable.
I agree with that.
With $3 per account possible set aside for capital improvements.
Well, that's for, but 15% on wastewater commercial will be more than $3. That's just the residential water rate inside the city. Because our base water rate is just a little more, but our wastewater rate is a whole lot more for residential. Yours is 17, ours is 34. So that'd be about a $4.50. But it doesn't, $4.50 is not gonna make a big difference on a commercial bill. And I think that would be great to get started on that capital improvement plan, and then we'll designate whatever figure council wants to put, to designate to go into that fund as well as the franchise fee.
I think we should consider 20%. Because the 10% increase that we were discussing before for residential would have meant total of $8.79, but that was with the 2 fees. So if we're taking away the $3 fee, we're not making up that money by increasing it just to 15%. That's only $1 more in difference.
And, you know, we still have to manage an operation of the plant.
Right.
That we have now, our water plants and our sewer plant. So if we set aside everything that we increase the budget by, or the rates by, then we're not making any progress toward that. So, yes.
For the audience, can we express what the new gen study suggested versus where we're at? Because what the new gen study proposed that we do so that we can be on track not only to maintain infrastructure, but also for this $7 to $10 million wastewater plant and whatnot. This is why they
The
came up with
wastewater
numbers.
plant was not figured into the new gen study.
Even better.
That's just maintenance and operation for the city.
Right.
Even better.
So the suggested increase was to add a franchise fee, increase all water by 27% and all wastewater by 43%. And we don't want to do that.
That's to maintain and hopefully put some aside, and, yeah. So we're coming way off of what the professionals
Way
have
off.
suggested we do. That's where the struggle's at.
Thanks.
That helps.
Glenn, I have another thing from you. What do you think?
Why are you picking on me?
Because you're too quiet.
Suzanne,
Yes, Lynn.
I, after Rebecca made her comments about the 20%, I would agree to the 20% as well. Because that does make better sense, at least we're gonna be, making up for, what we're not gonna be getting on that franchise fee. I think our ultimate goal is to have some money to put aside for our wastewater and our streets so that we can make those improvements in the future, so.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes,
if you want me
ma'am.
to speak, I'll speak.
I'm gonna speak. Sure.
I hope everyone will take into consideration what this council's facing. For years and years and years, we've had the same problems around here. No one has ever addressed it. We've elected people that didn't want to raise taxes. They didn't want to increase fees. There was like 5 years in a row where our garbage pickup was being consumed by the city. It wasn't passed on. So, you know, it's going to be a tough decision, but we have to do something moving toward a new wastewater treatment plant and getting our infrastructure back in order. There are so many things that are being held together with Band-Aids. And for some reason, we've avoided huge penalties. And, you know, I don't know how much longer we can hold out on that. So, you know, don't be too harsh with these people up here trying to make these. Because, like I said, I wish people would have showed up years ago and started working on this problem. It would have made it a lot easier on us, but it's ours to carry on with.
Okay, we're about to shout now. Yes, Bryce.
In the current, do we have a timeline, and like you said, it's being held together by Band-Aids, but how much longer is it gonna last? One, and then two, we can't rebuild where we're at, right, because it's in a flood zone. So we have to move the whole thing when we move forward with this, so that's where a lot of the expense is. But, it's only got a few years.
May I? And you know, part of this maintenance and operation of the plant, we now have licensed certified operators. We're not using the guy that's watering the flowers out there tending to the, reading the well readings and taking the water tests. So we're getting qualified personnel for the jobs that are required. That's gonna cost us a little bit more, not a great deal, but all these things have to be taken into consideration. Yes, Rebecca?
I was just gonna, comment too, that we do work very diligently to get funds from other sources other than the consumer. The Texas Water Development Board funding, the Department of Agriculture, Community Development, block grants, all of these things. We are aggressively, seeking, you know, funding for these projects. So it's not solely on all of us, you know, who pay our bills. We're getting the money in from other sources too.
And you know, it's just not all about utility projects either, because we're looking at a Texas Parks and Wildlife grant, which is a matching grant, but we're gonna have to come up with some money to match that part. So our revenues overall need to increase, not, you know, we're not just picking on water, but water and wastewater is where we're lagging the furthest behind.
While I appreciate that y'all are looking for other funds, and I hope you really are doing it very diligently, I understand what Glenn is saying, and I totally agree. This has been such a problem for so long, and there's councils before y'all that have not addressed this or not taken care of issues when we knew they were a big problem, and they just kept kicking the can down the road. The problem is, now I've been in business in this city for a long time, different businesses, so I've been impacted by it, good and bad. But the problem that we're having right now is the people that didn't have the opportunity to speak out or didn't have the ability to contribute toward making this right are being impacted. And it comes from that kicking the can down the road. So we have a lot of nice new businesses in town that are getting hammered. And I mean, I'm a new business, sort of, but I mean, I've been in business in this town for a long time. And a lot of these people haven't. And they're in their first 1, 2, 3, 4 years, which are the crucial years to make it. And I'm just afraid that the lack of welcome, I'm gonna use that loosely, by council to business is really hurting these people that could come here and not make it for a year or two and close up shop, but could actually come here and make this their home business, their home, and keep going. But they can't suffer all these crazy fees that are just killing them. I hate to see new businesses come in and go out in 2 years. And for 25 years, I've watched that happen every single year. And I know in talking with other business owners that these unexpected expenses, you know, we work on a budget like y'all do, but we can't just go out and manufacture new business or manufacture new revenue. We have to continue to build our business, but we can't do it when we're feed to death and taxed to death.
Yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate your input, but as a business owner, you also know things are gonna increase every year.
Not 30%.
It's gonna increase every year, and you have to budget for that.
And we
It's
do.
not 30% of your bill.
It's not 30% of your
Okay,
bill.
all right, okay, can we get back to our budget,
Sure.
please?
And I would also say that, this council, well, most of us, are responsible for approving the EDC bylaws and incentive programs, and have encouraged the EDC more than I think any other council has in doling out those incentive programs. So, I would hope that any business coming in, and my family are business owners in town as well, that you know, with the welcome to Bandera business packet, I mean, it's like it's never been before. So in increasing a water bill because it's something that we're faced with having to do, you know.
Bryce?
So I'd like to, if we could talk later, so I can get a feel from you as to what exactly you're seeing as unfriendly for the business owners, because as an owner of multiple businesses in town, I've not run into that. However, it depends on the business probably. And I've spoken with the lady that runs a laundromat where if this had been 30% on usage, that could kill her, and she was concerned about that. Obviously, we get car washes and whatnot. Our coffee shop uses a lot of water. You know, there's definitely people impacted depending on what they're doing, and you don't use much because you're an office building, so I get that. But I like to, when you talk about not being friendly, one, I'd like to see that change, because we do want to encourage that. But I have not felt that personally, and in talking with some of the EC members, I don't know where that's, so I just want to know, so I'm not blind as to what's going on.
Well, can we get back to the budget, please? We don't need to talk about EDC, routine cities, let's get to the budget. Yes, ma'am.
We hear the 30%. We see that's only gonna be on the base rate. It'd be a whole lot simpler of an explanation if you have a residential rate, the 30% increase, so you can see it like it is on a bill broken out. Okay? Because that 30%, when you hear that, you do think your total bill.
Yes, ma'am.
To explain to people.
Well, I think we clarified that tonight,
Yes.
so I'm sure we can move on. Okay, so taking care of this. I think utilities, we've got a consensus. What else have we got?
So that was a $2 street
Ma'am?
fee, and that was a $2 franchise fee for streets, and then 20%.
20% across the board for commercial and residential within the city.
You're going up on the
And a $2
commercial
franchise.
wastewater?
Ma'am?
Not on commercial wastewater,
You're
right?
leaving commercial wastewater alone,
I'd like to.
Okay.
It's already high.
except commercial wastewater. Suits me, because it's high as it is. Okay, then a $2 franchise fee to the streets. All right. Now, have y'all had a chance to look through this at all this week? Y'all want to start at the beginning and work our way to the end? I'd like to talk about the employee benefit package, the employee raises. Our decision tonight to use these new fees is going to make a little bit of a difference in our bottom line of the utility side. But we still have plenty of money on that side. It should be around $140,000. That we could set up a council contingency fee to be used for merit raises, to be, discussed between Jay and the department heads, decide who gets what and whatever they want to do. We have a little bit on the general fund side that we do the same thing. What do y'all want to do? Yes, ma'am.
I would like to propose to the city council, and we've already got the budget printout for a 3% COLA raise for our city employees across the board. It has been since 2015 since they've received a COLA raise. COLA raise is not really a raise. It's a cost of living raise to allow our employees to be able to afford the cost of living. And if our employees have not received a COLA raise since 2015, I think it's time for them to get a raise. But also keeping the merit raises, and the certification raises also for the department heads to be able to give out as they feel an employee has earned that. I'm understanding that in 2017, there was a COLA raise, but not everybody got that. So virtually since 2015, our employees have not received a cost of living rate at all. So I was just thinking, everything's increasing since 2015. Everything has gone up. Food, our utility rates are going up, clothing, rent. And that's only like on $14, that comes to like 44 cents. And a lot of times when you do the COLA raises, that also helps to retain our employees, that they know that they're going to be able to pay their bills. And then also, like I said, not take away the merit raises or the certification raises. Let those be totally separate from a 3% cost of living.
How often do they get merit raises?
Ma'am?
How often are merit raises given?
Your evaluations.
Annual evaluation.
Annual, so you would do an annual merit raise and a cost of living?
But not everybody gets a merit raise.
Why would they not?
Only if they deserve it, right?
Yeah, only if they deserve it as that.
There you go.
Yes, Glenn?
Okay, as I discussed before, some of our positions have had substantial increases in their pay. So, some of the positions, like Public Works Department, which I talked about before, they didn't get a raise at all. So, these people who got the substantial raises, when they get a 3% raise, you know, that's quite a bit compared to what these other people that have been sitting on the same salary, base salary, for how many years. I don't like the 3% across the board.
Russ, you were shaking your head.
I'm not a fan of COLA, just, it's, sorry, Lynn.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Well, it is.
You wouldn't think that they would
Don't
deserve.
speak to him, please,
Sorry.
don't speak.
COLA and merit, I mean, merit is you put in the work, you're doing what you need to do, or above and beyond what you need to do. COLA is just, and I hate to sound like this, but just existing. And yes, some things are going up and some things are going down. Gas has gone down over the last 8 years. There's, you know, it's not hinged on what the actual cost of living is. We're saying 3% across the board, and the cost of living could spike to 8 or could drop to 1 point, whatever. And so if it's set at 3, we had that in the military, and it was like, we just got this free money is how we looked at it. It wasn't really, I don't know, it just, I don't see it.
But
And Tony had, I wish she was here, she had a really good argument for how COLA is, it just doesn't work.
I don't agree with you. I think COLA does work. Most governmental agencies receive a COLA for the inflation that happens every year on what it costs. I'm sorry, did you
That's
say
government.
something, Jerry?
Did you say government? Yeah, that's government, that's not necessarily the general, real world.
Well, I
it's
give
not.
my
I mean, you don't have
employees,
to-
I give my employees a cost of living
And
raise
I-
every year,
and-
and they
and
also
if I
get.
can talk?
So let's carry on.
Could I talk?
No, that's fine.
Mayor,
I'm through.
Okay, from the impression I'm getting, I don't think a COLA's gonna happen.
Okay.
So,
may I talk, please?
sir,
I had asked previously if anyone had done a salary survey. How can you possibly get any type of raise without knowing where you are at competition
well,
wise?
the council's
And
not.
they very well,
Call to order,
can I finish?
please.
They very well may deserve more than 3%.
And that's fine, that'll be up to the department head and the
Supervisor.
J. Council does not give raises. Council simply sets a budget.
I'm not saying to,
So that's,
but you do
it's not,
determine
that's
whether
not
they
for us
should
to
have
discuss
one.
tonight. That's for a
Correct?
future discussion. Tonight we're to decide how much money we have to put aside, then we decide how it's to be distributed.
That'll be another discussion for that? Or is
Not
that gonna
before
be
the
done?
budget is over, but what we'll do is we'll set aside a lump sum for a council contingency fund for payroll raises or any emergency that comes up, a contingency fund. Then from that fund, after review, evaluation, and consultation with Jay, then those raises would be just given out. Now, we're also looking at, as you said, a survey to see where our things fall, but that's not for us to budget, to worry about tonight. That's not part of this budget. Because we're not raising the whole base rate of everybody sitting at this table.
Well, if you give a COLA, you will.
Okay,
Well, I
can
would
we
see-
move
I
forward
don't
now,
see us giving a
please?
COLA.
Oh, I'm just saying.
Yes,
I'd like to call to order and move forward. Glenn was talking about the raise, and I think we got a printout for the Public Works Department on if they had an increase of $1, $2, or $3. And then we did you read that letter from Martin, Glenn?
I did.
And so I was thinking that we could propose to put those funds somewhere that Martin would have access to in order to give the raises in his department.
That's sort of how it works, but not exactly.
Okay,
In the utility fund, we're gonna have some money left over, even though we've gone with these different utility rates. What we do is that money that we have left over, we need to budget it, say, 70,000 for council contingency fund that would be at Jay and his discretion together.
right.
Then another 50 for the wastewater improvement fund, which would have nothing to do with that, but we could set aside a contingency fund for future raises and perhaps a future adjustment in the entire pay scale if that's what, comes to pass. But we can do that. We can put a lump sum aside for use for utility employees in the utility side of the budget. We'll also have some money left over on the general fund side, a much smaller amount, but we could also put that aside, again, for raises to be decided between Jay and the department heads. Yes, ma'am.
Would that suffice for you, Glenn? Does that, or?
Yeah, that's fine. I read the letter. I don't necessarily agree with everything,
Mhm.
but, it's his department to run.
Right.
So
Right.
if it gets out of hand, then I'll vote to fire him.
Okay.
Is it okay? to
That's
have-
easy.
Because I feel like it is the supervisor and the department heads, they should have the authority. They work with the employees on a day-to-day basis.
It's always been that way.
Well,
Council
and-
has never given raises,
Oh, well, and
except
that's
to, the people that we appoint,
Right.
to Jay.
Yes,
But we don't give raises, that's not our authority.
that's right, okay.
The budgeting is our authority.
Yes.
sir.
Jay had his hand up.
Yes, Jay.
I was just gonna say that we haven't done a true salary survey as per se, but I have reached out to cities around us, and then we have some cities comparable to us around the state. We're very much in the middle of the
For
hunt.
example, where have you reached out to?
Kerrville, Hondo,
Okay. Yeah, what'd you find in Kerrville?
Kerrville, we're below them, almost entry level. One of the problems there is our public works is everything. Their public works is broken out to collection, to distribution. Their parks department is paid a whole different rate. So it's real hard to compare them, but if you took an average across, we're a little bit below Kerrville.
Yeah, in Kerrville, yeah, of course, they're a much bigger city.
Sure.
But the other ones like Hondo, Castroville, we're right in there.
Mhm.
Comparing the same,
Right.
at least based on job descriptions.
Quinlan, for
we
example,
show
very
versus-
close to us. We're a
Mhm.
good little bit above them.
Yeah.
Others, we're below them, so we're kind of right in the middle, and I think in a pretty good spot as far as a starting salary for public works employees coming in.
Well, we can talk about that later, Jay, bring it back to council if you think it's appropriate, so, we've established a couple of things so far, yes, ma'am.
I would like to see us, create the line item for the certification pay.
That line item is already in your budget, it just hasn't been filled in yet.
Okay. So,
And has anybody looked over those numbers and have any comments or any sort of,
these,
yes?
I'm happy with that. And
Thank you.
I'm also really happy with doing the merit raises and the certification pay as incentive to make more money for the work that you do.
Right, okay, well, we'll go to work on that tomorrow, it's Friday, yeah, we'll work on that tomorrow. Get that out to you as soon as we can. Longevity, what do y'all think about longevity?
I think that can backfire.
Well, as I said, we could amend the budget later if we choose. But if the general consensus is not to include longevity pay at this time, then we can move on if that's okay with council.
I don't want to see it
Ma'am?
at this time.
I think that the increases we're considering are more than sufficient.
Okay.
That can
So-
change, next year or whatever, but right now.
So you, I don't know where y'all wanna go from here, guys. Do you wanna go by department? There are no big expenses this year. There's no vehicles, there's no, I think the biggest expense is $8,000 in the marshal's department for equipment. I guess that's vests that he's buying this year.
All different types of equipment.
Just equipment,
Yes.
yeah. So, yes, Bryce.
On that, you mentioned some particular equipment we had, almost 6 figures worth on that one truck. Did you find out anything as far as whether or not we could liquidate that?
Well, we can, it'll be up to council's decision on whether you agree with that idea or not, but we're putting together, we're getting all the equipment we got that's old, we can't use, stuff that's, it's just not worth throwing money into to try to keep it going, and maybe look at putting that on an auction. If we can get enough money to get, a hydro excavator, whether it be new or used, that would benefit the city greatly. It would speed up the process, uncovering lines, all kinds of different things like that.
You mentioned a truck in particular that we had 0 use for, I believe you said, that was pretty pricey.
The chipper truck, I'm not gonna say we have 0 use for it, but for what little bit of limb trimming, tree trimming that we do, it's yeah. I mean, we have a dump truck. We can put a bonnet on it very easily, just set it up there, carry the chipper behind it, spray it in there. And, and I don't know when the truck was bought. I'm sure it was a special purpose when it was bought, but we don't use it to speak of. And it's a great truck sitting there, but I think we could benefit with a different type of equipment.
And when they worked on that price and get together whatever, if any equipment they want to dispose and bring to council, that money too can be put into a contingency fund into the utility side to purchase future utilities, or street side, whichever, for future equipment. So again, there are no major, yes ma'am. Go ahead.
Off the subject, do we need to make a decision on how much we want the mayor and the city
You
council
don't have
to?
to make any decision until before January. It stands as it is right now, unless you choose to change it this year. There's nothing in stone.
It just stays. Okay.
Anything else they want to talk about? Okay, we are planning a special meeting on the 26th, which is next Thursday at 6:30. And at that time, we'll be putting before you a final budget, and we'll get it out to you by Monday, Jay. Yes, so you'll have plenty of time to review and ask questions prior to the meeting.
The 27th, you say?
26th. That's that Thursday that you can't be back until later.
Were we able to push the meeting?
To 6:30.
Did you just say that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think I said that, did I say that?
You did, yes.
Did you? Okay, I haven't.
So are we gonna discuss the tax rate increase tonight or not?
We've already said, I mean, we had a public hearing earlier.
Okay, so that's a done deal.
Well, by ordinance, we have to.
Okay, all right.
So, and that is part of the budget, so if you wanna talk about it.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to know that we knew we are doing that increase.
Yeah, well, yeah, we have to. And notice too, that it's broken out of a separate line item on your budget.
Okay.
I apologize.
Just wanted to be clear on that.
6:30 on the 26th.
6:30 on the 26th. Yes, Rebecca?
For contract services, I don't know, has,
What department are you in?
well, I'm not sure. What I wanted to ask about is I'm trying to remember the guy's name with Simple City, if he had reached out.
He has. I have the information on my desk. Just his first throw out there, and we can still work on it, is about $50,000. But he's supposed to call back, and we're going to try to do a little phone meeting with him and talk about where we need to start on his budget cutting down.
Okay.
Like his was the whole city, we're going to do everything in the city. But then he said we can go down, we can start cutting back to where if you want to identify a certain area more, we
To
can.
narrow that down.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's the type of contractual services that I,
Well, that's not really a contract service, that's gonna be a
consultation.
presentation, so it's the consultation, it'll come out of contingency fund or somewhere. And then should we decide to engage them, then we could
Okay.
either figure out where we're gonna get it, ask EDC or put it in.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, we'll have amended budget versions to you by Monday. Pretty simple changes. Jay and I will talk about the excess, suggest some ways to use it for council, send it to you like we did before, send it out earlier, so.
You sent the email, and that one of the ideas was to set up a capital improvement fund to start from for that.
Now, we're gonna have less revenue in the utility side, but we still gonna have a significant amount of money that we can do some really good things for employee contingency, some good things for maintenance contingency, and still put a healthy chunk into a capital improvement. And y'all will decide what actually goes where, but I think we can really do some good with that money. Okay. Item 9, executive session. The City of Bandera will consult in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters regarding the annual evaluation, duties, and salary of City Administrator Jay Horry. It is 7:05. I'm recessing the regular meeting. Folks, would y'all please leave the room?
I'd like to thank y'all.